We need to talk about the word slop. Again, this is my second video about this topic. My first one from roughly a year ago was mostly in the context of YouTube content from the point of view of someone who watches and does YouTube. It didn't exactly do all too well, and I feel like I could have changed some things to better get my point across, but I was still glad to get my frustrations out when I did, so that I could just move on from that whole discussion. But little did I know that this stupid word would go from just being about AI content farms and problematic commentary channels to becoming this universal insult used against any work of art that somebody doesn't like, whether or not such art actually falls underneath the definition of slop. And by art, I mean literally anything. Music, games, literature, memes, content, nothing is safe from this word. I've seen all sorts of perfectly fine and even really good things that are handmade with no generative AI whatsoever get called some form of slop. From Peak, Repo, Lethal Company, Minecraft updates, Kanye West's older albums, Radiohead's In Rainbows, Weezer's Blue album, Final Fantasy VII, Evangelion, Kingdom Hearts, Diablo 2, Sonic Adventure 2, GoldenEye 007, Spyro the Dragon, Defunctland, Joseph Anderson, and even the Angry Video Game Nerd, and everything else James Rolfe has made in the past decade or so. Like, the fact that someone called Radiohead slop highlights how completely useless and overused the word slop has become because of how clearly subjective it is. And it drives me insane, especially when people try to combine the word with some other word to form a compound type of slop to describe entire swaths of things that annoy them for no good reason. Videos longer than 30 to 40 minutes are now long slop because people don't have attention spans anymore. Indie multiplayer co-op games from the 2020s are now friend slop because people don't have friends. Any game or album or piece of media released before 2010 is now slop because I don't even fucking know, adults are annoying. Games that you need a wiki for are now wiki slop because people don't want to look things up for themselves. Like, what's next? Cozy slop, sand slop, conveyor slop, indie slop, essay slop, goat slop, fucking bald slop? That sounds absolutely crazy now that I think of it. I will say AI slop, which is by far the most common use for the word to the point of earning slop the Merriam-Webster Word of the Year in 2025, is an absolutely valid term because generative AI is absolutely slop. In fact, Merriam-Webster's definition specifically mentions AI. But don't go calling AI artists that, or they might just call your real art pencil slop, a word specifically used to be a rage-baiting asshole. Like, I know a lot of this shit is just obvious rage bait, but it's working, alright? And I don't care that I'm falling for it. Hearing all of these perfectly good, human-made things get called this ugly word that's literally defined as usually being AI-generated genuinely makes me want to put my head through a wall because they don't deserve it. Alright, there are many passion projects and other things that real people have put effort and love into that do not deserve to be lumped in with AI-generated trash. Even if they're mediocre and don't really add much of substance, they're still someone's own creation that came from someone's heart. When used incorrectly and carelessly, not only can the word slop devalue art, but it can make the artist feel devalued themselves. It can make them feel like they aren't real artists and that they don't care enough about their work, so why should anyone else care? You could argue that maybe artists shouldn't care about what other people think and to just make art for themselves or whatever, and I'd argue that's exactly the point. Making art for yourself is the opposite of slop. You're not trying to rot anyone's brain or spam anyone's feed, you're just trying to express yourself, or at the very least gain some kind of catharsis from the process. And when even that gets called slop, I'd imagine it'd feel like a completely unwarranted, almost personal slap to the face. It's like, you know all that hard work you put into that passion project of yours? That didn't happen. You didn't work hard at all, and you clearly aren't passionate about what you do because I don't like your work, and I know better than you about your intentions and your work process. It may as well have been AI generated, and it wouldn't be any different. Slop. It's slop. All you make is slop. Matter of fact, you are slop. As a person, you are slop. You're uninspired, unoriginal, talentless, passionless, and fake. You are a fake artist, and you should be ashamed of yourself for daring to follow your dreams. Never cook again. And the worst thing about all this, the thing that pisses me off the most, is that I was one of these people. For whatever reason I'm still not sure of, ironically in the middle of my original video on slop, I decided to call both Moon and the Moon channel Slop, with zero explanation, other than I don't like their videos, completely contradicting the arguments I've been trying to make in that video. These are two completely different channels by two different people that I put under the same label. Moon is a YouTuber who's basically the biggest doomer on the platform, and Moon channel is a lawyer who typically makes laid-back videos about video game law. And while Moon is often considered a Slop channel for a multitude of reasons that have been explained by people who actually care enough to watch his videos, Mooney is just kinda doing his thing and isn't actually Slop at all. And yet, because of one now removed video Mooney uploaded on Carl Jobst that he has since apologized for, and the fact that his name is so similar to the other Moon channel, I just decided to call both of them Slop, because I just don't like them. Which isn't even true for Mooney anymore. I've actually come around to his content, and I feel like an absolutely hypocritical dumbass for ever calling him Slop, and I've been kicking myself ever since. Alright, if you ever watch this, Mooney, I'm so sorry for doing you like that. Please forgive me. But it only proves my point. This word is incendiary, not just towards the artists it's used against, but also towards the fans of said artists. It was hearing some of my favorite YouTubers being called Slop that pushed me to make that original video to begin with, because it felt like my taste in YouTubers was being attacked, even if it wasn't. Imagine how those who watched Moon channel felt when I called his channel Slop so dismissively. Alright? Even my own takes on what's Slop or not are subjective at best and objectively wrong at worst. Which is why I think we should be a lot more careful when discussing things we don't like instead of just jumping to that word. We should actually try to figure out and articulate why we don't like something instead of just taking shortcuts. Just because a YouTuber makes one or a few or perhaps even many mistakes doesn't mean their channel is Slop. Just because a piece of art/content is mediocre doesn't mean that it's Slop. Just because a video is too long for your liking or a game isn't in a genre you jive with doesn't mean it's Slop. Just because something takes inspiration from something else doesn't mean it's Slop. Unless it goes too far and becomes plagiarism, in which case, maybe so. We really need to start recognizing that not all art is made for everyone, and that it's a shitty thing to just casually dismiss and degrade other people's work or other people's taste just because you don't understand or enjoy it. That is why I think we should just stop saying the word Slop when talking about real art and save it for things that actually deserve it. And even then, the line between what does and doesn't deserve it can be literally anywhere, depending on who you ask. So, I don't know, at the very least, make sure you understand what Slop actually means and that it's reductive by nature, and to make sure whatever it is you want to use it against actually falls underneath the reasonable definition of Slop and that it deserves to be labeled as such. Like, maybe if it's borderline Slop, but it's handmade with pure intentions or out of catharsis, or has no reason not to exist or is still enjoyable in spite of its sloppiness, then maybe it doesn't deserve to be reduced to the same level as corporate Slop, or AI Slop, or micro Slop, or whatever else. Put it this way, there is a massive difference between McDonald's and something like Culver's, or Shake Shack, or Five Guys, or In-N-Out from what I hear. Even if these are all technically Slop, they are not the same.